This week, we wrap up our series on how to be an objective investor by looking at the cost of failure, a failure that's all too common with people who've placed their focus on the wrong things at the wrong time. So we're wrapping up our series on how to be an objective investor. For those of you who have been with us for what is now our fourth segment, thank you. This has all been one day for me, but talking 25 minutes nonstop was not something I wanted to put anyone through. It's not that I don't ever change my clothes despite my love for blue work clothes. What are we talking about this week? The cost of failure. So real quick, we're going to recap the reasons for failure, why it's so important to avoid them, how hopefully we can help, and summarize this whole series all in hopefully the next 5 to 6 minutes. So what, to recap, are those big reasons for failures? It all comes down to undefined things, whether that's goals, timing, trade-offs, or plain old expectations. That any of those can lead to people being whipped around by fear and greed far too frequently. 20 years plus in this, I've seen it all the time. I felt many of the same emotions, and it took years to develop the process and the discipline, again, to overcome those things. But as you go through those, again, you need to have not just specific goals for what your hopes and dreams are, and believe me, that's important to us. We built an entire planning process that begins every relationship by wanting to understand that for our clients. But that is not the same as understanding the goals for your individual investment positions, and that's what this whole series has been about. Timing. As we've touched on before, your timing is not the market's timing. There's an old adage that the market will do whatever hurts the most people. And of course, part of that belies the truth that most people chase performance. Most people are going to go into whatever's hot, trying to rush timing to not be patient. And we obviously want to be far more disciplined when we see an investment portfolio than that. Number 3 is trade-offs. Again, as we touched on last week, how much risk you're willing to take should give you a certain amount of reward, but you really can't bend those laws of gravity. But you do want to be able to measure and map that. You also need to understand the trade-offs between that acronym LIVE, liquidity, income, volatility reduction, expected return. I'd love to be able to give everyone 10 out of 10s across the board. Some people pretend they can. That's where people get into danger. So really understanding what the right trade-offs for you and your plan are so critical. And then finally, expectations. Kind of summarizes all those things, but what are some realistic expectations around timing? Understanding how much of timing is outside of your control, and anyone pretending to measure an individual position and tell you it'll do X in an X amount of time really should be fired, quite frankly. How much return is reasonable for how much risk you're taking? All of these things, again, need to be communicated, and that's why we do videos like this to help better explain it. Why is this so critically important? Vanguard and Russell have both done studies. There have been countless others. Those are the two I can get any of you who'd like to see them. And the biggest determiner or gap in performance and the value of a good advisor comes around behavioral finance and coaching. It's why you hear the markets and average mutual fund do this, but the average investor does a fraction of that. And it comes back to these undefined expectations to lead to market chasing. Of all the different things, asset allocation, tax sensitivity, fees and costs, and all the things that people focus on, none of those amount to more than a 1% added value. Behavioral finance and coaching is close to 2%. I look at what I can control. I don't operate for myself or my clients with the presumption that I'm in any way special. So with that, I look for where can I make the biggest difference with something I can control. That's this, behavioral finance. And again, the biggest way that's been shown time and time again to check and control those emotions is to really define those 4 top points that I made. How do we do that? What's so critical? It's so important. We're just going to keep driving this home to understand the roles and to work with people who stay within their roles. We're wealth managers. We're not fund managers. And there are a lot of people out there who pretend to be both. Some may be for ill intent or based on ill intent, others just because they don't know any better. A wealth manager is here to do everything we've really talked about in the last 4 or 5 weeks. Not only the planning video that Jake did, but the point of this whole series, which is to educate, empower, to understand who you are, and to map those solutions specific to your needs, and then explain and monitor them in a way that can hopefully make you feel comfortable. So again, you find that intersection between portfolios working, on a substantive level, but also having the right style and fit so that they feel good to you and that you'll give them time. A fund manager's role is completely different. Those are the people we're going and finding on your behalf, and we want those people specifically focused on whatever their niche is, whatever, again, that objective reason, thesis that we've hired them to achieve, and we don't want them focusing on anything else. And the reality is, when you look at the role of a wealth manager and all the different asset classes and fund managers, any one of those jobs is more work than probably any one person can handle alone, let alone trying to do it all. So in summary, we don't want to just build portfolios that are good. We want to build portfolios that are good for you, that are tailored to your specific needs, wants, and desires, but that you can understand are mapped to your specific needs. Those are the types of things that all investors should be looking for, and again, thinking through. As we touched on a number of weeks back, markets can be very trying times. This is one of the best ways to get through those times, approach things with a less emotional bent to be able to achieve, again, those hopes, dreams, and whys that we want to see you achieve as well. With that, thank you so much. We'll look forward to talking with you soon.